as we go. All right. Okay, cool. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. We'll do a bit of an overview first, and then we'll dive into each of the sections in a bit more detail. So on the left here, you'll see I'm going to actually start, even though this is maybe not the most exciting, but I think we've got some feedback to say we can make this a little bit more obvious. Um, Kind of in this area here, you'll see your name, and the little gear icon is where you want to click on and go in for kind of any of your account level stuff, right? So the reason I'm drawing attention to this, you of course have your personal details, your billing details. We also have some information on the affiliate program, which if you guys are not a part of, I can definitely share more on that as well. But as it relates to the account level content, we have your personas saved here. So for those of you who are either newer to Capsho or haven't explored this feature of Capsho just yet, at the account level, we actually, when you do your first upload, we do ask you to set up a persona. And what we mean by that is the persona encompasses two things. Firstly, who you are in a bit more detail and who you serve, your audience, and what they kind of follow you for. And then the second thing, which is really important as it relates to the content Capsho creates for you, is the tone of voice. So when you first set up your Capsho account, you'll be asked to populate these two things. The tone of voice kind of learner is just meant to be a starting point where you can train Capsho on content that you have written, so that it kind of has a good starting point. But you don't have to pressure yourself to be like, oh, I've got to give you 10 pieces that are perfectly in my tone of voice, because over time, it's actually going to learn from every edit that you make on the platform, and you tell the platform that, hey, this is an edit that I want you to learn from. Okay. So for those of you who have set up your persona, you can always go back to my personas and actually edit them as well. If you're like, well, I used to talk to content creators, but I still do sort of, but now I speak more to, I don't know, mums who work from home or something like that. Then you can go ahead and change that as well right in here. You don't have to set up a brand new persona unless you think it is a completely new space that you're going to be playing in. In that case, you can set up a new persona as well. Okay, so I just want to draw your attention to that. Not the most obvious, I know, from a UI perspective, but just click on that little gear icon there, and that will give you access to all of those items there at the very account level. So hierarchy wise, that's going to be all your account level stuff of the things you have told us. And then in terms of the actual features and the feature breakdowns, we've broken them up into 3 studios. So hopefully using the studios can kind of help your brain orient a little bit better to say, okay, well, almost these are different rooms of Capsho that I want to go into. So, and the image studio and the clipping studio are newer, but let's start with marketing studio, because this is really where Capsho started. This is our bread and butter. This is probably the part of Capsho you're most familiar with. And as the name suggests, it's all about kind of creating the marketing assets that you basically, want to create from the upload. Actually, let me just stop here for a quick question from Alex. Yes, I think you can absolutely have multiple personas. The way in which you would, the use cases in which you would use that, and Alex, feel free to share what yours may be, is that on say in the example that I just showed you, I had one for myself and one for Deidre. Now her and I probably have very similar brand tones of voice, but because we upload, say, training like this that I do, and then we also upload, say, more outward facing CEO style content that she does, like, podcasts and things like that, right? So depending on the nuances there, you can do that. We do have a few people who put different shows on there they might have multiple shows with slightly different, audiences and things like that. So you can use it for that as well. Awesome. Like Karma's just said. So Karma's got different personas for 2 podcasts. Exactly. Perfect. So, but you can absolutely set up a new persona there. Alex, you can go to that persona builder that I just showed you, but you can also, as you're uploading a new file, when you're asked to choose the persona, you can create it from there as well, which we'll take a look at in just a second. Okay, cool. So that is the Marketing Studio. So inside of Marketing Studio, the main purpose of Marketing Studio is to take an audio or video piece of content and repurpose it, turn it into all of the written marketing assets that you need. Now, you will see in terms of currency, in terms of the studios, each of the studios have slightly different currency. You'll see the currency as upload minutes. Now, you will never see four figures on here like you do for me. That's one of the perks of being a co-founder is you can get kind of unlimited minutes, but you will get 300 upload minutes every month, which should be plenty for you to play around with. But basically, that will count down every time you upload a file. So if you upload a 5-minute file, it will just deduct from that when the upload has been done. So if you need more information, it will have this little, information bubble here. This is always going to be telling you how many minutes you have left for your month. And you can always go to your settings and your billing to see when your next refresh is coming through. Now, we do get this question. We currently don't have the functionality to give you if you just need some minutes just to buy, a pack of minutes. We don't have that. So you will need to wait until the next, your next membership payment goes through for you to get your fresh minutes. So there's just a little bit of planning required there. But yeah, these are your upload minutes. And basically you want to start off this process, you will need to go ahead and upload a file. You have two options to do that. You can go ahead and, drag and drop a file or obviously find it in your local storage. You can also now add, for those of you who haven't seen this new-ish feature, you can actually add your YouTube link directly. So this is for if you have already live streamed, to YouTube, or you have a backlog, a back catalog, of content that is already on YouTube, rather than having to download it and re-upload it into Capsho. You can go ahead and just add the link directly in there. Okay, so that is a pretty simple process. Basically, once you do that, it's going to, I've just dragged and dropped a mock file in there. You can add a name to your file. So it will default to the file name that you have on your either if it's on YouTube or on your computer. But you can go ahead and rename this. If you can't make up your mind just yet, you can also rename the file later, so there's no worries for you right there. Of course, Janet, yeah, with the YouTube link was a big request, especially from our eCam community, so we were very happy to be able to do that. And before you go ahead and confirm the upload, it will just remind you how many minutes it's going to deduct from that balance we were talking about earlier. And it'll also tell you how many minutes you have available to be able to deduct that. Okay, so once you hit upload, I'm not going to upload this and put you through the upload process, but it's pretty simple. You just go ahead and upload, and then it will do its thing. Now, at that point, actually, maybe I should show you an upload, because you are going to have to, we're going to have to go through the persona. So let me go ahead and change my mind there. So, okay, so when you hit upload there, it's going to basically ask you, firstly, what kind of content you're uploading as it relates to the platform. So another key feature here means that you can actually upload content where you've been maybe a guest on somebody else's platform. So this could be you, for those of you who are speakers, you might have been on stage and you have a recording. That's a really, usually, for those of you who have like a signature talk, that's a really great thing to put through Capsho to generate evergreen content. You may have done a really, I don't know, exceptional podcast interview that you were like, oh, that was actually pretty good. I loved what I said there. And usually, your hosts are pretty happy to share the recording with you. But so those are some of the examples of content you might have been on somebody else's stage. And then you also have obviously content for your own stage and your own channel, which is, likely going to be the bulk of this, right? So it's just going to write it in slightly different perspective, but it's just giving Capsho that, that perspective. So this recording, I'm going to go ahead and say it's just for my own channel. Now, this is where the persona piece that I was talking about comes into it. So as you can see here, you can create multiple personas. I've just created examples for myself, my co-founder, Deidre, our strategic partner, Jenna. But you can either just pick one of the personas you have. You will have to pick one for every upload, or you can go ahead and create a new one. And if you haven't created a persona before, the only option you will have is to create one. So you'll go ahead and give it a nickname, give it something that you are definitely going to remember, especially if you kind of create one and you're like, oh, there was a time I think we had like a multiple Deidre Shens in here, and the team and I had to work out which is the right Deidre Shen. So, just make sure that if you are experimenting with this a little bit, that you give it a nickname that makes sense to you. Okay, so, and then this is somewhat important, because this is quite important, because, some of you know exactly what this is for you, right? But if you are struggling a little bit, we do have a persona statement creator that you can go ahead and just click here. It's a little bit hard to see, but you can actually, if you have a bio, but you don't really know how to turn it into the inputs for this, you can go ahead and click there, add your little bio, and then it will turn it into the format you need. So the reason this is important is we don't want kind of superfluous language, sometimes that we may use to talk about the value we add to our audiences. We need it to be like to the point so that Capsho knows in as much detail, but not, kind of fluffy speak, what you do, who you serve, and what result that they might be looking for from you. So for example, in my case, I am a co-founder. I'm not really an internet personality who is like people are following for advice and things like that, right? The thing that I do is is Capsho. So, I can say I created a software product. And I could even write AI if that's important for me. Basically, our audience are largely entrepreneurs, and really what they're looking, especially for Capsho, they're looking for a lot of things, entrepreneurs, but as it relates to Capsho, is they're looking for, I could either write more leads or more results from their content, right? So that will tell Capsho, hey, okay, so Bonna's kind of in this co-founder space. She's not a coach. She's not any of those things. She's kind of really in the software product kind of doing part of things. She's talking to entrepreneurs. Capsho's kind of main focus is on entrepreneurs, and what they want and why they might use something like Capsho is because they're already creating content that they want more results from. Okay, so let me know if that's kind of a little confusing, but we've just broken it up into those 4 things so that Capsho has as much context as possible. And then this is where you want to go ahead. And the second part of the persona builder is to actually go ahead and start to train Capsho in your tone of voice. There is a generic option. I would highly advise you you should probably just remove that. But if you are, crunched for time, you can definitely choose one of the 4 that we have: motivational, conversational, caring, and professional. But I just want to warn you, this is AI service. If you go down this path, it is going to have a very AI lens to it. And I don't want to hear it if you are later going, oh, it sounds very much like AI, and you use generic tone of voice, right? So this is where you have the opportunity to start to train Capsho in your tone of voice. Now, a very important point here is it's not about the content. Now, it doesn't mean that you can write rubbish in here. That doesn't make logical sense. But really what it's looking for here is kind of your tonality, how you like to structure things, and just your natural cadence when it comes to talking. Some of you might be more formal, some of you might be more casual. You might have certain ways of kind of opening, your pieces of content. You might like lots of spaces with short sentences, or you might prefer a denser, So these are the things that Capsho is going to be looking for. So you will see there's a 3,000 character limit. We have found shorter form content works better because it's more potent. Like if you had to write an email, even if it's not to your list, even if it's to a strategic partner or, someone in your professional realm, you're going to have a certain way that you approach that. Now, if you're writing a blog post, which is a longer form, you are more likely to think about, okay, well, what are search engines looking for? There's more things that come into that are outside of tone of voice. Right now, having said that, people have copied and pasted parts of a book they've written, so it's still very open, and maybe the way you write a book obviously can be quite personal as well. So the rule of thumb here is to pick 5 to 10 pieces of content that you really feel reading it crystallizes how you like to speak. Okay. Now, there's no pressure, like I said, to make this perfect, because like everything, we grow, even our tone of voice grows and changes. So over time, Capsho will continue to learn. This is not the be all and end all, but this gives it a really good starting point, especially for your first upload. So all you have to do is have those things ready. We recommend, like I said, social media and emails as the best place to mine. I've even put like social media content that, because I don't post a lot from the business, but even just from my own, how I write on social media for just like my family and friends, because again, that's just how I communicate, right? So you want to make sure that you just pick pieces that you feel are representative of your tone, and then Capsho will continue to learn from there. So what it's going to do now, your persona is going to overlay how you like to speak, and then it's going to overlay who you are, or at least how you define yourself to your audience, who your audience is, what they're looking for, and what you do, right? So it's quite a beautiful mix of things that's ultimately going to factor into everything, every piece of content that Capsho writes for you. Okay, so that's the most important part. I'm going to go ahead and pick a persona that we already have, so that we don't waste too much time. And then you can also tell Capsho if if especially if it's because it is content that it's on your platform. A lot of you have recordings where you have an expert guest, so you can definitely put them in there as well. And then they'll, Capsho will take on that context too. And if you have the start of the show, you just want to, exclude because it's got maybe high level show intros or an ad and things like that you don't want to factor in, you can also tell Capsho what to clip. But this is this is just like a nice little, it's not the end of the world if you don't. So you're going to go ahead and save that. You will need to do that for every episode or upload that you do. Like I said, it'll get relatively very quick at it because you'll have your persona, you'll have, but it's just kind of giving it all the little contextual pieces it needs for every upload. So once that happens, you'll kind of, depending on your connection levels and stuff, will take a few minutes. Now's a great time to go and make yourself a cup of tea or something like that. Or you can start the next upload if you do bulk, sort of have your Capsho time in bulk. So this is how you can kind of just get the ball rolling. And then it will go into this uploads processing status here. You'll be able to tell from obviously the nickname you gave it where, what it is. So once that's ready, you want to go ahead and click on that, or you can click on the get started. And now this is the second step for every upload. Now, people say to us, well, isn't AI meant to be easy and save me time and all of that? Yes, but we also believe in it being intentional and creating content that you're actually going to use versus you just put it through the sausage machine and a sausage you did not want comes out, right? So basically, once it does all of that, it's transcribed it, it's got the content, it's understanding your persona. But before it writes anything, it wants a few things. It's going to ask you the topic for this upload. So we will do most of the work to kind of come up with the topics that we could surmise from what you've uploaded. But we're going to ask you to pick it because you could also sort of customize it, right? Now, this is going to give Capsho some focus on what you wanted to really kind of talk about. Okay, so in the written content. So the first thing to do is pick your topic for the upload. The second thing we're going to do is based on that topic, it's going to say, that's interesting. Now, based on that topic, based on your audience, based on all of this persona stuff that you've told us already, we're going to now write your social media content. And we need two things to make the social media content really powerful. We're going to come up with 5 premises that we want you to choose. And premises are a little bit more than just a topic, right? They're a point of view that we can again, we've analyzed what you've said in your recording. Here are the very specific perspectives that you have that is coming through, and we want you to pick it for every upload. That is going to be the focus of the social media content. Not so much the blog, not so much this long form content, but the social media content, because a lot of social media content that AI generates is very general, and it's very like, oh, this is what I spoke about. It's like summarized versus actually reminding you of the very specific perspectives you had, and then giving you something that you're like, oh, okay, this is actually valuable and cuts through the noise versus just me adding to the noise out there. Okay, so basically you want to go ahead and pick that. And then the third thing is and we do not apologize for making you do this work, because this is the thing that's going to get you results, or at least get you thinking about your funnel and what you even want from your content, is we're going to add a call to action. So it may be very simple for you to say, yep, I just have one call to action with all of my content. Amazing. You're doing great, because that means you probably optimize your business to a point where it's all really simple, right? If this is causing some anxiety and causing some questions, I encourage you to lean into that as, well, why are you even creating this content in the first place then? What do you want out of this? And it could be as simple as just listen to the episode. This doesn't have to be complicated, right? If your intention is to grow your show, awesome. That's easy. Just put that in. But if it is to maybe it is actually to book a call with you, right? Maybe it is to come to this webinar that you have. Maybe it is for us, it could be, yeah, sure, sign up for Capsho could be one of them. It could be to come to this demo. It could be to join the challenge running with Ecamm in a few weeks time now. Oh, didn't have a lot of time, I just realized, right? So this is a chance for you to think about what the call to action could be. Now, this is going to be taken into account in your social media posts as well. Now, you can look at it later and say that call to action is not relevant anymore. That's no worries, right? But this, I think, is a really, really important part of the process for you to think about and really say, what is, if I was to drive my audience through my content to an action that's going to show that they maybe want to take the next step with me, then what could that be? Okay, so maybe for those of you who have, thoughts on that, definitely this is where a lot of people get stuck. Maybe you don't, but definitely this is something that we want to make sure that makes sense for you, given the stage of business you're at and what you're looking to do with your content. So you will have to do this for each one. Once you do, this will enable, otherwise you won't be able to proceed. We're like very hard about this. And then once you do that, it will move into this next status here, which is called ready to edit. Now, this means all of your Capsho assets have been generated for you. It will remind you of the topic, whether it was your own content or you were on someone else's platform, the persona you've applied, and obviously if you have any guests. Now, this is the view that you will see of your marketing studio. This is your asset dashboard, and these are all of the assets that Capsho creates for you. So remember, these are all the written assets that Capsho creates for you. We've got social media up the top. We've got Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. We're not looking to add any other social media platforms right now. And we also we want you to encourage you to think about this as just because we've said LinkedIn doesn't mean that that's the only place you can apply it to. I think it just helps categorize it to say, okay, well, really, where do you want to focus, right? Sometimes you get all of these things from AI and you're like, cool, I want to be everywhere. And that never works. So really be mindful of, especially on social media, which platforms you want to meaningfully be on, and then go ahead and just go to those ones. I love that, Karma. So Karma's saying use the polls on X. Amazing. We don't necessarily have X. And I'm going to share a few little hacks, content hacks that Capsho events have been using. And this is one of them. We do create polls for Instagram and LinkedIn. The awareness posts, and they're great on X, but you could also use them on other platforms or even emails or even Facebook groups. Facebook groups is another place that allows you to do polls. And if you have an active Facebook group, that's where it's a really great place to post these. Okay, so you'll see that each of the social media content as it relates to social media has 4 posts, and they're labeled accordingly. Post 1 of 4, post 2 of 4, post 3 of 4, post 4 of 4. So they are intended to go in that order because this is the 4-post strategy that takes your audience from awareness, as the first post is named, to action, right? It kind of takes them on the journey. Now, does this mean that you can't go straight to action? Of course not, right? This is, if you're just like, hey, I just need the action post and I'm just posting on social media once this week, awesome. This is just there to guide you if you would like some guidance on this stuff and give you a variety of content. We don't want to be one of those platforms that just says, blah, here's some AI stuff, pick and choose it, and it's very general and, it looks like anyone could have written it, right? So if we go into the Facebook version, you'll see, like I said, those 4 posts in order. The point of the first post are conversation starters. It's really about generating awareness about the topic. So that's why you will see that we have some options for you that are all about posing questions, that are posing maybe some unpopular opinions or an opinion. This doesn't mean it's your opinion, right? It's not copied and pasted from what you've said in your recording. It's just kind of taken that to say, okay, based on this audience, based on what you've told me they're looking for, based on the topic of this upload, based on what we know about your persona, all of these things, what might be some questions or conversation starters you could post on Facebook to do exactly that? Is generate some engagement on your content. Okay, Karma, so that's interesting. So Karma said that she's found that these are always quite opposite to what she actually maybe has said or believes. And, it will do that. It will agitate that a bit. And a couple of different ways that people have used this as well, I think in similar situation to you, Karma, is kind of like taking it as oh, okay, that's really interesting. It's got me thinking about this. I actually believe the opposite or something adjacent or something different, but it's got me thinking about that. And I just write what I actually think, right? So, but you could also, depending on how, kind of provocative, let's say you want to be, other people will say they'll take it and they'll put it in quotation marks and just say, what do you think, right? It's not something that they're saying. So either way, it's a big conversation starter. If you were to go to LinkedIn, we do that particular post as more of a poll because LinkedIn polls are really great, work really, really well. So if you are on LinkedIn, that's where your audience is as well. These are some great little, easy polls to create. You'll see that we'll always give you 3 options for the answers. And then you can also in LinkedIn, you can add up to 4. And the fourth one, we always recommend adding other. And please comment below so that people give you some feedback on what the other option would be. So again, it's a conversation starter. You can also see who voted what, and you can always follow up with them as well. So speaking of follow up, another great way to follow up with people on social media is to tag whoever engaged with you on your engagement, on your awareness post, on your tip post. If you are looking to follow up with something else, the tip post is a great one. It's a value add. It's just kind of summarizes the perspective. Remember the premise we spoke about that we selected? Based on that premise, it's going to give a longer form piece of content that you can post that's more of a give to social media, right? So people use this as video scripts. If you're more of a video first creator, you can use this to say, oh yeah, I did say that. That's pretty smart. And then you can turn it into a video. If that's how you like to talk to your audience. You can post it as a long form piece of content. You put it into a carousel. Some people actually, they're not big social media people. They will see this as an email, right? So there's just anywhere that you're looking to give value to your audience is this is a really great piece of content. And with each of the social media pieces of content, if you're like, need a little bit of further guidance on how you might convert what Capsho has created into something that you want to publish, you can go ahead and click through there. And we have some helpful articles on examples and what you can do as well. And then we have the community post, which is basically rather than content that Capsho has written for you, it's going to give you some ideas on how you can create the more content that's a little bit more, behind the scenes, a little bit more human, let's say, that kind of talks about, refers to your stories and anecdotes that AI tools like Capsho would just not be able to understand even from your upload unless you tell a story on the upload, right? But it just is a good kind of place to go to say, okay, well, I probably should share a little bit more about me and my backstory. What are some things that we could talk about? And then finally, we have the action post, which is like the name suggests, it's going to put in the action, the CTA that you added. If you remember originally in that upload, it's going to contextualize everything you've spoken about to that action. And then it's kind of going to embed that. Now you will see that is also taken into account. It won't just say, here's the link, go listen, because that doesn't perform very well on social media. It will, the call to action will be more like, would you be interested? And this is where it is important that just is you can't post and ghost your social media audience, right? You have to engage back with them, especially if they engage. So this is where you're looking for engagement, reactions from people, and then you can either follow up via DMs or comments so that you're not kind of just spamming people as well. So and you will notice that there's a little markers complete button. This is where I was talking about that, you can make everything is editable inside of Capsho. And then once you make the edits, you can go ahead and mark as complete. And that's where Capsho will start to learn. So it's got an idea of how you like to write your social media posts, but now it's going to go, oh, okay. Alex, he likes to write his LinkedIn action posts in this way. So it's going to start learning at the asset level over time. Obviously, it'll take a little bit of time. We recommend 3 to 4 uploads for it to really start to get to know you. And if you have a very different way of writing, obviously there's going to be more to learn. So, obviously think of it as a junior intern on your team, how long, time that they would take to obviously learn, right? So that's how you can, continue to make sure that it continues to reflect your tone of voice. And then the one difference with LinkedIn is that we also do create a LinkedIn newsletter article. That's a native, functionality of LinkedIn. For those of you who don't know, you can set up your own newsletter on LinkedIn, and we do create a LinkedIn article for you that you can publish depending on the cadence of your newsletter, whether that's weekly. I think the weekly, twice a month, and monthly maybe are the cadences that are available. So this is another really, really popular piece of content. Now, even if you don't have a LinkedIn newsletter, take a peek. If it's, you do want, if you are emailing, for example, your list on a regular basis with, sort of just value add content that's just about your expertise, this is a really great starting point because you can turn this into an email, but pretty much has an opening, sort of, quite a bit of value, and then a call to action if you want to embed that. So that's the sort of social media side of things. I'm just going to take a quick pause and check if there are any questions. Please do continue to drop them in the chat as you have them. I want to make sure that I copy them. Sorry, answer them. Okay, cool. So that's social media. And then we have the podcast and the YouTube ones, which are more for helping you publish. Now, if you are a live streamer, then you would obviously have the title and description that you would put in, when you schedule your live stream. But after the fact, how live streamers use it is to say they then take a look at either the YouTube or the podcast title and description, and they go and edit it afterwards, right after it's gone live. So this is really designed to help you publish and optimize. They both work very similarly, with a couple of differences. In terms of the similarities, we have titles everywhere that you see a title in this bold, in this bold, you'll see that there's options. So we'll populate one for you, the one that we recommend. But there's also others that Capsho has created for you. And of course, these are all editable as well, right? So you can go ahead and do that. All of this is editable. You'll see the podcast title and description is very simple. It's got a title, it's got a bit of a hook. It'll tell it'll tell the audience what they can expect. And then with a bit of a CTA, you can click on this little plus and it will also give you access to the transcript and the key moments, which are the high level timestamps, and chapter summaries, which are more detailed. So chapter summaries would be basically the key timestamps with a bit of a summary as to what's covered in each of that, right? So it'll be a paragraph or so. So if you do have longer show notes or descriptions for your podcast, that is how you can go and extend those. Otherwise, we find, so these are the chapter summaries here. It gives you the timestamp, what the main context is, and a little bit of a quick little blurb. Okay, so that is a title and description. It's pretty simple. And then you have the YouTube version, but obviously it has a little bit more. It's got the key moments, which will be pre-populated, and it'll also give you tags, suggested tags that you want to publish with the video as well. So that is to help you publish. So you have no excuses if that's where you've been falling over. And then the other thing that Capsho creates, if you do have a blog, is that, it basically, if you're more of a video or audio first creator and writing is not really the thing that you want to be spending a ton of time on, this blog post is a really great way to make sure you're not missing out on the SEO, potential of your content. Because the great thing is if you are on the likes of YouTube, Google, same people. So essentially this will just boost sort of visibility and discoverability for you. It will be geared towards people maybe who are more looking for written answers to their questions. So this will be based on your upload, but be written in a way that you necessarily don't even have to listen to or watch what you've uploaded, because this is kind of taking all of that and turning it into a written piece of content, right? We also give you the meta description for the blog post so that when you do publish it, you have that. And we also give you some key points that if you have the capacity to do so, you turn into an infographic, especially if it is educational content, because essentially SEO is all about discoverability from different angles, and embedding images where you can that are relevant will mean that people can find it through different ways. So there might be actually like on Google Images and they see the infographic, which then leads to your blog post, right? So because a lot of you are creating educational content, a lot of it will be lend itself quite well to creating infographics. Now, again, we don't want to overwhelm ourselves with all of these tasks. So if all you can commit to is just publishing the blog post, that is better than no blog post. But also if you're like going to be overwhelmed with everything else, then trying to do a blog post on top of everything else is not really going to add much value, right? So really you want to think about what you have true capacity for. But like I said, if you are a video and audio first creator and blogging is not something that you're ever going to extend yourself to in that way, then this might be a really great place to start. Otherwise, like I said, a lot of people also use the blog, between the blog post and the LinkedIn newsletter article, they also use that for email content. If that's where you're finding more of your engagement, or you already have warm leads, you kind of want to keep them engaged. This is another way that you could just give, if that's where you're finding more, more resonance as well. So don't be limited to what platforms we've put on here. Just kind of take your time, review them, and have a think about how they might apply to your existing workflow. Before I go into lead gen, I'm going to quickly show you quotes. This has been this is one of our favorite features from Capshovians. All it's going to do is going to go ahead and pick the most potent quotes from the upload. Obviously, if it's a solo episode, it's going to be all yours. If it's a guest, it will likely be mostly the guest, but I'm sure you will have also said some very insightful things. So again, there's lots of ways to use this. Some people use this as ways to create like quote cards for their guests. Some people use this as ideas for, future content. Some people go, oh, that was really good. That's a really good hook for a subject line, right? So there's a myriad of ways that you can use this. It's also sometimes just a good reminder of what the episode was about and what the highlights were. So that's a great little feature. Now, I want to spend a couple of minutes on the lead gen side of things. We actually create a checklist for you. So it says lead magnet. You don't have to create it as a lead magnet, but you can, especially if it's a very powerful recording. And we talked earlier about uploading maybe your signature talk or your signature thing, right? Framework maybe, or whatever it is. This is really helpful in a few different ways. So you can turn it into, if your audience loves checklists and things like that, this is a great little tool to use to turn into a checklist. A lot of people use this as awesome. I did a podcast episode kind of high level on this, but this is going to be the outline for detailed training that I do. And it could be more than one piece of training, as you can see, right? So use it for any which way that you want, but it's a really, really great organizer of the upload that you've put in. Now, if your upload is a little random and rambly, that will obviously be reflected on this as well. But again, a bit of structure never hurt anybody, right? So it's actually really, really helpful in that regard. Alongside the checklist, it will also give you these 3 Facebook posts, which are very optional, but it's one of the strategies that we have seen work well on Facebook. People have tried using it on other platforms and converting it to that so feel free to do that. But essentially, it's 3 posts that are designed to be posted one after the other that basically uses a lead magnet as a hook to get people to self-identify as leads. So the first strategy, which is really about saying, hey, I'm creating this thing. Let me know if you want it, right? And it could be the checklist lead magnet. It could be something else. One thing that we'll be like, hey, we've been getting some feedback that maybe some live demos of Capsho would be helpful. Is this something that you'd be interested in? You're not selling anybody. You're just kind of saying, hey, I'm just putting this out there. And if it's crickets, if nobody says anything, then you're like, cool, I'm glad I didn't waste my time organizing all of that, right? And then the people will comment on that. And in the meantime, if it is something that you are going to be doing, you can share what we call the why post, which really kind of emphasizes the thing that, the lead magnet that you're putting out there and kind of the reason behind it, right? So it could be in the demo case, it could be, hey, because there's a lot of AI tools out there. It's really, really, it's really overwhelming. It can be really hard to like talk to a real human about this stuff sometimes. So we just thought this is really important in making sure that you kind of pick the tool that is right for you or whatever, right? So it will draft a why post. Again, this might not be great for social media for you because that's not where people are maybe following you, but we've tried this in emails in different, ways, or even in DMs and stuff as like talking points, if that's where you're having your conversations. It just really crystallizes the why behind what you're doing. And then finally, we have ideas for what we call the BTS post, which is the behind the scenes, just some ideas of like similar to the community post. It's not an actually written post for you, but it will kind of say, hey, maybe you should share in this example, how you revamped your own brand, because that's what you're talking about, building your brand, right? Or maybe you can talk about a client story, right? Or maybe you can share more about you. So again, depending on how open you are about sharing your story and yourself on social media, this could be a nice option for you if you are stuck on content ideas. So this lead gen sort of box here is a little bit different to everything else, but that's kind of what it's designed to do. And it's definitely not a comprehensive list of assets, but it's something that we've seen work well for some people. So definitely take a peek at that if that's something that you do spend your time doing on social media. Okay, so that is Marketing Studio. I know I've covered a lot. So let me know if you have any specific questions on that, and we can always come back to those as well. Now, the thing that I want to show you next is the Image Studio. So I don't know if any of you have used Image Studio yet. It's basically where we invite you to come and play. You'll see that when you click into Image Studio, your currency up here will change to image credits. And basically it will every time you generate an image, you use a credit. So you get 50 credits every month. So you don't have to use these. This is just a way for you to play around. And we currently have two tools at the moment. So we have the ability for you to create a YouTube thumbnail and the ability for you to create a social media image. What we don't have yet, and I say yet because hopefully this will come soon, is the ability for you to add your photo to integrate into these. So right now, this is going to be very much other people or no people. We've been using it to experiment with some sloth content. For those of you who know and are in the know, Monty Mossbelly, who is helping me with my demo, is our mascot. So, if you have obviously animals as part of that, this is a really great and nifty little tool. But this is all very experimental. Image AI is very experimental. So you could either just ignore this completely if this is not a space that you're playing in. You could just use it in between uploads to just have some fun because, hey, you've got the credits, just use them because if you don't use them, you lose them. Or if you are experimenting with AI images, this is another way on social media or your other content that you can just test it out. Because again, if you are open to it, just see how it performs. We're not trying to be famous on social media here, so this shouldn't have too much of a problem. What I found is the biggest thing is this: you have to you want to leave the sort of more like the creative part of it to AI. You do have to have an idea of what you want, right? So, like with everything, unfortunately, I struggled with this piece. I'm more of a writer than anything else, so I was like, oh, I don't know what to tell it. So really any a vision you have for the image, and then you basically, if there are any visual elements you definitely want to include, you want to be specific. So I remember I was like, oh, okay, well, let me just try a simple one where there's an entrepreneur stressed out about social media. And then it kind of went a little bit broad and wide and kind of said, okay, well, where I could be specific is that you could say a woman if that's what you want, or a man if that's what you want, right? So you want to be specific in those details, but not necessarily like you don't have to say hunched over doing this and feeling whatever, right? So this is where experimentation is important because it'll kind of give you a view as to like, oh, okay, well, this is how it responds to these words. And you'll realize you use a lot of subjective words and it means something in your head and means something different to the AI. So this is just, that's why it's very, very experimental. For social media, you can choose the aspect ratio and you can also pick the style. And as you can see here, it will, once you put through, it will generate it for you here. You can just filter by YouTube or social media. I don't know, my internet connection is just a little bit slow here. And then it will, when you click into it, you can download it and you can also be reminded of what prompt you put into it to get it. So I think I put in a post-it with a love heart on it on a clean desk with the words 2025. Okay, so it said 215. So this is AI, right? It's going to struggle with some of the words. But yeah, this is where, and then for this one, obviously this is quite easy to do. Steaming mug of coffee with a wintry backdrop through the window, right? So, and I think this was, I can't remember, realistic, I think was the style. So, you can clean up your, what's this one? Sloth brain glasses, working laptops surrounded by coffee cups and sticky notes. Okay, I think this is illustrative was the style, right? So, you can just play around with this. The YouTube thumbnail design is an interesting one. For those of you who do A/B test on YouTube, you could always A/B test this version with one that you've created. You can always go back to older videos and create one through here and see what happens. Like I said, this takes a bit of getting used to because you're kind of telling it a thumbnail visual rather than sort of explaining everything. And you also want to exclude any of the words that you might want on the thumbnail itself. Now that is the thumbnail, the written text on images is pretty nascent, right? So it's not always going to get it. I think we have about maybe a 60% hit rate, which is not bad, but it's not great. So you will see, it's going to struggle with bigger words. It's going to struggle with more words. So we recommend putting it at 3 to 5 max, just so that you're not taxing Capsho too much. But, for example, this one, post less, grow more, right? I just put in I'm thinking an overwhelming swell of social media platforms and icons. So, it's on the grayer side. It's a little bit simpler. But this one was pretty cool. I just said Anne. It's just say a woman dressed up as a superhero. And the words I put in was fine. A superpower. Did pretty good with these words. So I might just test this YouTube thumbnail. It's not the end of the world, right? So this is just meant to be a space for you to play. We people have also used the social media image designer for other images. So, at this point, it's just kind of like use it as an experiment and see what happens. All right, and then we have Clipping Studio. This has also been a highly requested feature. Basically, when you go to create new clips, you can either choose an existing video file. Obviously, it doesn't do audio only files, or you can add a file to YouTube. So you can choose one you've already uploaded, or you can add a new one in here. And then the great thing is you can actually tell Capsho once you have, if I choose this one, for example, you can actually tell Capsho what kind of clips you would want from it. So instead of it going ahead and just finding them, you can just go ahead and say, okay, these are the kind of clips that you would want. And if there is a topic that you want it to focus on, you can tell it that as well. And once you do that, it's going to go ahead and create these clips. Be warned, there's not a lot of editing ability, actually none on this. We just pull the clips for you, which you can download directly. They're in 916 only. We give you some hooks and headlines that you can use as further marketing, for your content. We also give you a social media post to download. But a great way that people use this is to say, if they do spend a bit more time editing their clips, they use this as the clip finder to say, yes, this was a really good piece of that particular episode. But again, we're really helping people sort of spend less time in production and more time on actual marketing. So these are pretty good to post as is as well on stories and, kind of more like your short form content. So this is where Clipping Studio is probably going to stay for a little bit. But, we always look for your feedback on all of these things. So again, Clipping Studio, you'll see when you head in there, you'll see clipping runs. You get 14 every month. Each run will give you 5 to 6 clips. So you could run the same file through multiple times. I don't know why you would, but if you wanted to, you can use those clipping runs exactly how you will. So you could, end up with how many other clips that you kind of generate. So again, if you don't use them, you do lose them. So you may as well just experiment with it to see what you get. Okay, I want to make sure that I have enough time for questions. I'm just going to go ahead and stop sharing there. Like I said, I'll be back every week so we can deep dive into further things as we go. But yeah, please let me know if there are any questions from any of that that you'd like me to answer.
Yeah. Can you just repeat? I missed. How many clips did you say you get per clip run?
Depending on the length of your upload, like 5 to 6.
Okay.
Especially if it's a really short upload, there might be like, we really can't, there's only like 3 clips in this, but I would say 5 to 6 is generally the number.
Thanks.
Of course, yeah. Any other questions I can help answer? Okay, quiet room.
In
Yes,
terms
Bill.
of for me, I'm not going to be using this for a while, but when I'm ready to use it,
Yes.
is there any kind of online or training or videos or that I can just, watch
Yeah.
and,
Yes, really great question. There will be, we do have some, but we're getting all the updates. We are creating new training on this. Sorry about that extra thumbs up. And like I mentioned, we are doing a challenge with Ecamm, which is specifically helping people live stream. So for that, I've got a very strict deadline to create all of this training. So definitely by the time you're ready to start using Capsho, Bill, and definitely for all of our Capshovians right now as well, there'll be new updated training coming for each of the studios.
great. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Actually, you
Yes,
said
Alex?
this replay would be available on YouTube. Could you put the link to YouTube where like other trainings exist, previous recordings exist?
Sure. Yeah, I'll give you the link to our channel. Let me go ahead and do that. Hopefully this won't start playing all over us. Um, like I said, a lot of it is a little bit older, but that's where you'll be able to access content that we put in. And then definitely the new training will be available. I think we're going to do it as part of there'll be a landing page that you can go to access all the training, but you can just follow us on YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you'll get all of the latest videos we post on there as well.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great if you could put the link
Yeah,
in the chat.
let me just share the channel with you, and then if you have any specific requests, Alex, definitely let me know. We can create some as well, because we want to make sure that we're getting that feedback and requesting
Sure,
as well.
thanks. Appreciate that.
Of course. Yeah. Thank you, Alex.
Hi, how you doing?
Hi, Ralph.
Question. So I came in a little late. So is there like a trial for the Capsho or I can try it?
Yeah, absolutely. You want to go to, I'll drop the link here. Uh, it's for those of you who don't have an account, it's www.capsho.com/free trial. You can start a free 7-day trial. When you're on there, you will see that the price is $99 a month. And that's what is currently on the website as well. But you can add the code. I'm just grabbing the code for you to actually get it for $49 a month. And that will be locked in for life. So you don't have to, it's not like for a certain time, or it's not for a, it's like a promotional thing. So that's just as a thank you for being interested. So let me just grab that code for you here. Gosh, I'm just in the back end now. Okay, yep. So if you just put in the code forever50, that is going to make sure that we lock in that price. We do have an additional step anyway, in case you forget the code or you accidentally sign up without it. Our Capsho care team goes through every sign up and gets in touch with you to let you know that we have applied the code in case you missed it. But it's always great to just add it upfront as well.
Thank you.
Of course. And
My
yep, you have
other
7 days.
question, yeah,
Mhm.
my other question is, do you you say you do these Zoom regularly? Is there a link that I can sign up for the, regulars?
Yes.
Because
Yep.
I
So if
think
you
I just catch that one late.
Yeah, no worries. Absolutely. So we'll upload the recordings, but we can also, if you go to capsho.com/demo, this will always show you the one that's the most, I shouldn't say the most recent, the one that's coming up next. So the next one will be next Tuesday from memory, but if you just bookmark this page, it will just always reflect the newest demo that will be live. So you might
Awesome.
want to come to a few or whatever. So the next one I believe is scheduled for next Tuesday. If that doesn't work for you, there'll be one the following week, I think on the Thursday. So you can always just bookmark this and come along to ask questions. But if you just wanted to rewatch this, the replays will be uploaded onto YouTube as well. So on the channel that I sent through there.
Yeah, thank you. So lastly, with the marketing and stuff, can you manage other people's account via that, or is that only for personal use only?
It really depends. So you can absolutely upload, other people's content. Because you probably won't have enough minutes if you have multiple clients and stuff like that. So what we recommend doing is setting up a Capsho account per client. So then you can set up their persona on there. You get your fresh minutes every month, and then whatever, and you can just set it up yourself. Like you don't have to get them to set it up. You can say, okay, it's, Bonner at dot whoever at, and then you just kind of create the account and then you put their content through there and then you can charge them if you're managing it for a fee, Capsho fee plus whatever. That's how we recommend doing it. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining. This was a fun little group. You're all so gracious and lovely. It really made my day today. So, like I said, I'll be back. If you have any questions that come off the back of that, please do come along. Or if you're like, I don't have a lot of time, you can also just email me directly at bonner@capsho.com. I'm going to put my details on there. Hopefully the internet doesn't, I don't know, take advantage of that. But you can just email me directly if you have any questions. And if you're using Capsho and you're like, oh, I'm kind of stuck on this, we can always hop on a call. That's more one-on-one as well. So we just want to make sure that you figure out if this is the right tool for you and actually use it to get what you need. So that's our aim with this. Amazing. Of course. Yeah, it was my pleasure. Thank you so much. I appreciate you taking the time. And if I see you next week, that's amazing. If not, have a wonderful week and I'll talk to you very soon. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye. Bye, Janet.